property tax roll to $938,966,504. The next slide is a breakdown of the tax rate and the breakdown of the rate itself and the revenue. As mentioned by Jim earlier on the summary page, of the total tax revenue of $997,255, that is being broken out to $20,703,736 for the town and $56,293,519 for the school. For both of those, that is the operating budget of both and then the debt service obligations for both. So that's why, again, that the school number is known for the $55,994,000. The difference between that and the 56 you're seeing here is the debt service obligations of the school department. And that's how you're arriving at the percentages of both. Overall, the levy will be $77 million, or is proposed at this time, $77,222,273. The breakdown on the rate is $2.99 for town operations and $8.14 for the school operations, which brings you the rate to, as again, proposed at $11.13. Overall, from last year, that is an 11-cent increase on the town side and a 4-cent reduction on the school side for the overall 8-cent increase. And again, as noted below, the overall levy increase is proposed at 1.29%. Slide 9 is a breakdown of property tax revenue. So again, you'll see on the first column, the December 31st, 2023 assessed value. That is, as was noted on a few slides earlier, I believe slide 7, the total assessed value of the town at $6,938,966,502. The proposed rates at $11.13 for property and commercial, and tangible is now being set from the prior year at $11.05. That will generate the revenue, as noted previously, for the levy of $77,222,273. That results in an overall levy change of $980,130, or that 1.29% increase. And then taking it down for abatements and overlay, the to 98%, that it works out to $1.5 million, and the actual current year tax revenue for the town at $75,680,557. And finally, as noted below, a change up or down by 1 cent would require or result in a change of $66,970, and so on. Here is a little history to the property tax rate allocation. Then noted here is from fiscal year 2015-16 down to what is proposed for 24-25. And again, you'll see for the current year, or the proposed new year, 24-25, a breakdown on the rate of 11.13 to 26.89% for the town and 73.11 for the school. And again, that is a rate increase of 1.29. Over this 10-year span, that averages out to a levy increase of 1.88. That's relatively close to, again, I think we normally been using for other analysis the last 5 or 6 years, which would come out to about 1.7. So again, right in that range. I wanted to note that. Here's a slide that, again, Jim had noted previously in terms of all funds budgeted and what we're up, the 2.21%. So this is all funds. This is the general fund, the school fund, Peacedale Office Building, Senior Service Fund, the Neighborhood Guild, Community Rec Center Fund, Debt Service Fund, Water Fund, Wastewater Fund, and Solid Waste Fund. All in, the proposed budget is $107,244,335, which is a proposed increase, again, of $2.2 million, or 2.12% from the adopted amount in fiscal year 24. We have a couple slides now showing the breakdown on just the general fund. Here you'll note the general fund is being proposed for an increase of $1,714,000, or 5.56%. And you see the various breakdowns. Overall, as you notice here, they're very similar in terms of the percentage increases. They're within range of each other, 4s, 5s. They're very similar in terms of the growth of the town across the board. In terms of revenue, on the bottom, you'll see two drivers, really, or three. Obviously, investment income, we're showing a 66% increase, growth of $265,000. The fund balance is growing by $750,000, or 71%. And the percent obviously isn't too large on the property taxes at 2.87, but that's also growing by $523,000. So those are the main drivers on the revenue side. Next slide is really another way to look at, I guess, the breakdown on the general fund. This is where you can see the total for wages, benefits, services, commodities, capital, et cetera. I do like this slide because, again, this notes just wages and benefits total represents 76% of the operating budget. When you add in capital, so wages, benefits, and capital outlay, that comes out to 84% of the operating budget of the town. Again, further getting into really what is essential within this budget. Even, I mean, you can really go further with services and commodities as well, but those are three that are essential items. And again, there really isn't much of a change in terms of the revenue side from the last slide, but again, actually, I think they are the same. No. Next slide is the fund balance, both analysis of the current status of the fund balance and proposed usage for fiscal year 24-25. So within the now released 22-23 audit, the unassigned fund balance of the town is $15,599,644. And what is being proposed for the upcoming fiscal year 25, is use of fund balance of $1,793,608. That is a proposed increase of $750,000 from the current fiscal year. Next slide. If I could have put projections in a bigger font, I probably would have. I probably should have. These are very, very early projections. We talked about this at the meetings in March, so I certainly want to provide as I really have to label it, best guess, but I did want to provide this. I mean, this is a little hard to do at this time. I just want to caution because, again, this takes basically the actuals of 9 months of the year, and we still have 3 months or 1/4 of the year left. So these are projections. But again, this is looking at how many payrolls we have left, filling in any vacancies that are going to be filled, assuming any departures that we know of, and then working with departments to calculate what they assume for expenditures the rest of the way. So this is our best guess at this time. And again, on the expense side, we're coming in just over 98% of our operating budget, so under budget by $594,000. And on the revenue side, we're coming in above budget by $1 million projected $1,878,422 for a projected year-end results of a surplus of just under $2.5 million. Obviously, the driver on the revenue, or the driver of this, being the investment income, that can be broken down further by so investment income itself for our investments is coming in over budget, coming in for a budget projected year end of $1,680,800. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. $1,680,088, or over budget by $1,280,088. Additionally, beyond that, the town has GASB 31 charge, which is a reallocation performed by the town's auditors, which is shown as exceeding budget by $717,722 to arrive at that figure of exceeding budget of $1,997,810. So that is, again, our best estimation at this time on how we will be closing out fiscal year 23-24 at this time.
Brian?
Yes.
What you just said about the best guess year on projections, is that on the slide we have, or is it not on this piece of paper that we have in front of us?
Slide 15.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was on a different side. I wasn't finding those numbers, but I'll look
Oh,
harder.
I have just summaries here. So in each of these are summaries in each of these, like, for example, investment income, there are actually two line items that make up investment income. That GASB 31 charge or reclass, and then investment income. I have a brief summary here on each of these various,
Okay.
so I have the breakdown for that. I have a summary of everything on the
Because
slide.
I didn't know if you were looking at, I was looking at this and I didn't know. So they're not supposed to match what you said, correct?
I have notes, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank
No
you.
problem. Next slide, slide 16 is the preliminary adopted budget for the school fund, revenue and expenses. One section here I want to draw attention to, and if you have questions, I'd be happy to turn it over to the schools, but the column labeled as 2025 Department Amended. If you notice here, this is a new column. We don't have this for any of the other slides. So the school committee took action on their proposed budget after the council had already taken action on their budget. So they've actually, we'll have to address this when budget adoption is done, that we have to amend the current preliminary adopted budget for the schools to reflect their current ask. So these will have to be amendments we'll make 2 weeks from now. But again, that is being proposed at this time, or the department amended amount of $62,458,664. The next slide is the Peacedale office building. Peacedale office is being proposed for an increase of $1,326, or 1.24%, to $107,959. Senior services revenue and expenses are coming in under budget by $22,000, or a reduction of 3.01%. Overall, the proposed budget for next year is $707,842. Next up on slide 19 is the Neighborhood Guild Fund. Neighborhood Guild is being proposed for an increase of $87,562, or 10.03%, against the FY24 budget. Overall, the budget is being proposed at $960,722. The Community Rec Center Fund, on slide 20, is being proposed at $784,717. This is being proposed for an increase of $75,504, or a 10.65% increase over FY24. The Debt Service Fund, debt service overall is going down $117,614 from $1,915,386 to $1,797,772. That is a reduction of 6.14%. And then the next slide I prepared. I was going to go over the last four columns to the right, so just so you know where I'm reading from. So the fourth column over from the right, amount of original issuance of the existing bonds that are on the books, that was what was originally issued at the time of issuance. So there were 30 million at the time of when the various bonds were issued. Within our most recent audited financials for June 30th, 2023, the balance outstanding was $15,841,002. With the close of the current fiscal year, once all expenses are in and we complete that audit, the balance outstanding for current existing debt would be $14,339,000. And finally, the fiscal year that we're discussing now, once completed, we would then have balance outstanding of existing debt of $13,014,000. Next up is the Water Enterprise Fund. The Water Enterprise Fund is being proposed for an increase of $65,500. That's an increase of 5.18% off of the adopted amount for fiscal year 24. Overall, the budget's being proposed at $1,329,151. Wastewater Enterprise Fund is being proposed at $5,344,942. Overall, that's an increase of $276,711 against the current operating budget of $5,068,231. And finally, the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund is being proposed at $1,036,306, and that is an increase, proposed increase of $149,044. That is all.
All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions up here for Brian? I'll kick one off here for you. So I'm going to give a little background first before I ask my question. So under the town manager's proposed budget, we're looking at a tax rate of $11.22. That budget included a transfer from the general fund of about 1.1 million. Is that correct? A little below that?
Fund balance?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And we, based on better than expected performance and investment income, saw that at that time, the projected surplus was about 1.4 million. And we sort of tapped into that to increase the amount of the general fund transfer by 600,000, effectively reducing the tax rate from 11.22 to $11.13. Now, based on what you're saying in these slides, we project a surplus of 2.4 million. So now a potential 700,000 of surplus that would go to the general fund, increase the general fund balance, potential for our use to tap into to reduce the tax price further. You follow what I'm saying here?
Yes.
So I think there's an opportunity there to continue to reduce the tax rate here when we get the final budget adoption. I want to talk a little bit about how that sets up things for years going forward. I know one of the things you noted here, that $2.4 million projected surplus is made of $1.8 million in better than expected revenues and $600 million in less than expected expenses, getting us to the $2.4 million. So if we tap into this general fund balance even further to reduce the tax rate more, does that set us up for potential deficit spending that we have to plug going forward, where we inevitably have to increase taxes then? Can you talk about that?
Sure. Any amount that the town draws from its fund balance to supplement its operating budget will eventually be a structural deficit that you'll have to fund. That, you wouldn't be able to do it in perpetuity, so it does create a structural deficit. And the larger the amount, the more difficult it is to offset that in future years. So you have that available to you. I think this is something we should take some time to consider what options you have. And actually, this isn't necessarily something you need to decide now. You're going to do the transfers at the end of the year in June, once we know what the surplus is. At that time, we'll have a better number there. You can certainly, I mean, you can tap into it now, but you can also, when we have a better idea, then we would be able to move funds to other places at that time as well. So we have options. I'm just a little cautious because, again, we have 3 months left of the fiscal year, so
Yeah. Now, in a month's time, the anticipated surplus went up about $1 million. So is there potential for this surplus to increase even further as we get closer to year end?
I mean, it could. I couldn't say it couldn't. It certainly could. I have department heads that are projecting certain expenses that maybe something doesn't come in and it goes into the next year, or any number of things. So maybe something, but so there's a lot of moving parts at this point. As easily as it could go down, it could also go up at this point.
All right, one more for you. So you're suggesting you need a little more time to study this because we wouldn't actually have to do it until year end, but we adopt the budget
Yes.
April 29th.
Yes.
So we can essentially adopt the budget, adopt a tax rate, and then months later decide we're going to reduce the tax rate based on the fund transfers.
No, that wouldn't.
So we couldn't do it. Wait until year end. We'd have to adopt it April 29th.
Not if you're looking to lower that would be your bite at the apple in terms of the rate would be in 2 weeks. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
So it's interesting because I think we discussed this on March 18th, and originally I had come to that meeting when we adopted the preliminary budget and said we could add 800,000, and we compromised and came to 6. But at the end of the meeting, if I recall correctly, Greg said that he thought it didn't have to raise taxes at all. Did you say that? Am I remembering correctly? Okay. So it's very interesting because for people who weren't here, it was a very small crowd at that time. So we did kind of have that conversation about reducing it, to add 800,000, not 6. What would be the implications of just adding 200,000, not the whole 700,000? It's
Would
on that
that
side.
reduce it another 3 cents?
66 is a penny, so.
Bring it down
yeah,
to
3
11.10?
cents.
About
So-
tax mode.
And I also will have a question, because I feel like Rory is kind of remembering what we did last year at the end of the year-end transfer, where they changed the tax rate in June. We did, right?
Yes.
Ray, we were all here. 4 of us were here. So I'm confused why Rory was just told we have to do it now and not in June.
Well, you're adopting the budget now. When the actual levy gets adopted in June, again, the assessor's office are continuing to work on this, and there were changes every day until the roll was certified in mid-June. So there will be changes along the way. But I think this is your chance now to make amendments to the budget.
To make
Well,
minutes.
April 29th, but
Yes,
yes.
sorry.
The 29th.
Yes.
So we don't have to take a vote tonight, but we can
Well,
think
we're
about it.
discussing it,
Yep,
definitely. Yep.
appreciate it. So in reality, a lot of us at the table were correct about we could bring the tax rate down. We just,
Well, we have better numbers now.
yep,
I mean, the surplus is going up another $1 million since that time. It's only been a month.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're more inclined to increase that.
I hear you.
Go ahead.
I am a little concerned about the investment account at this time, given the uncertainty in the market. And so I wonder if we need to consider that. You know, we're up $1 million, but we could just as easily be down, given the conditions in the world. So I don't know what you guys think about that, or...
That is a genuine concern, Councilwoman, that, yes, in the current year, we're projecting to exceed budget by 1.2 million, I believe it was. We're going to finish, I think we're projecting at 1.6, and we had 400,000, I think, for a budget. But again, if you go back to, I believe it was 2021, investment income was 200,000. It was nothing. The rates were very low. So we've had swings quite a bit in recent years. We keep hearing how rates are going to be going down, so it's a concern. That's why we wanted to take what we assumed was a conservative approach. Again, this year we're looking at exceeding budget by 1.2 and taking in investment income of 1.6 million. We are proposing investment income next year of 665,000, I believe. So more than half of that.
So would would it be smart to take that extra 1.2 that we've realized as a gain and, you know, stick with our original 400? Or is that not a wise strategy? I mean, I just don't want to see that 1.2 disappear when we could take it and put it towards something.
Oh, the 1.2 will be there this year. I'm a little concerned about next year and future years. Sooner or later, the rates will come down, or it certainly looks like they will come down. I'm not overly concerned about this year. We have 3 months left, and we are fast exceeding budget, and I don't think we're going to see a drastic change with the 3 months we have remaining this year. I'm a little more concerned about next year, when rates may start to come down, but for this year, I would think that 1.2 is secure.
Okay, thank you.
Patty, I think Brian's earlier point about the fact that this is just a projection.
Yes.
And we've got 3 months left out of a 12-month fiscal year. It may be possible to find a middle-of-the-road position and maybe cut into it a little bit now. But frankly, I thought it was smart the way it was done at the end of the last fiscal year, when we knew coming into June 30 how much we actually had with just a few days left, and then tweaked the final rate, and it was a reduction to the taxpayers. So maybe some combination of the two would work.
At this point, we have about 15.5 million in the reserve, roughly,
Yes, correct.
and the 2.473 will be going into the reserve, presumably.
Yes. Unless,
So-
again, the council will have an opportunity in June to move money around for year-end transfers. So that money will go, likely some of it will go to fund balance, but some of it will likely go to other places as well. But that'll be in June.
So we'd be up around 18 million at this point.
That would be.
I mean, with your project, if you.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what the council action does with regards to that 2.4 million, yes.
Brian, I want to ask you a little bit more about the investment income to get a better understanding here. Does that entail dividends and interest, capital gains, or does that also entail unrealized gains based on changes in value of securities?
The large majority of it is really just CDs and savings accounts.
So interest income?
Yep.
Okay. So at this point, a decline in value of securities is not going to affect investment income because this is all passive income, all realized.
Right.
All right. All right. Any other questions from the council members for Brian right now? Questions from school committee members? All right, this is a public hearing. So we're going to open it up. Anyone who's interested in talking about this matter, talking about the town's budget, invite you to come on up. We just ask that you introduce yourself, and we'll limit you to 5 minutes. We got a timer over here, which will count down when you begin speaking. So it's a good thing to sort of keep you on track. With that said, first come, first serve. Come on up.
Jim O'Neill, Wakefield. Mainly a few questions tonight. If the bond issue passes, would you move up the bank anticipation notes from the fiscal 26-7-8 to 5-6-7?
Question for you, Brian.
That would depend on expenses at that time. We'd work with left field on Chris touched on that. There's been too many meetings. It was last week. But we would work with left field on developing a budget in terms of what the funding needs are, and we would develop a strategy on bands at that time, but we don't have that yet. But if need be, we could move those up, sure.
Jim?
But we wouldn't be prohibited from moving it up a year, fiscal year?
No, we wouldn't.
Okay.
It would be based on need.
All right, thank you. Another question. I asked before, and hopefully someone did some homework on the graduates from the out-of-district public schools. 11 is the number we're looking at this year. I think the total comes up to about 275,000. Does this mean 21 kids are leaving and 10 graduated? How do we get to that 11 number? Did anyone work on that from my last questioning?
We'll go to the school department on that.
Could you help me understand where you got your 11 from?
It was in the
Because we budgeted for an additional 18.
the OIDs of
Yeah.
the kids for out-of-district schools. You had 11 going out to public schools.
11 going out.
Kids, I showed that we're 11 is the new number that we have to pay for going to out-of-district
I
public
budgeted for an
schools.
additional 18. That's what we budgeted for.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about North Kingstown, Charahoe, and Narragansett.
Okay, for CTE specifically, got it, yes.
Guess what?
So that's what we're budgeting for, an additional student, 11 students in the
Okay,
CTE program.
so 11 is
Yep.
the right number.
Correct.
I gave to you. All I'm asking is that a net number. Have some
Correct,
kids
yes,
graduated from the
correct.
previous year?
Yes, it's a net number, correct.
It's a net number.
Yep.
Thank you.
Graduations and then the 8th grade cohort coming in as well.
Okay. Let's see, third thing, the other undesignated fund balance account of roughly $1.2 million. 550,000 is for technology. How about the other 650,000? Has that been earmarked for other sources, other facility improvements?
This is for our budget?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so we have capital projects. Is the fund balance designation is 100% for capital projects.
All right, just so a general, no big ticket items.
The largest is the West Kingston parking lot project. We have budgeted
Okay.
at 400,000.
Okay. Next one for the school department again is of the $4.9 million of the ESSA funds allocated to South Kingstown from the state. How much of that money has been spent on CIP facilities?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can pull it up if you just give me a
Pardon?
second. I can pull it up for you if you give me a second. I'll try to find
All
it.
right, well, everybody's watching the clock, so, we can't afford to waste any time here. I'd be happy to come back after
Sure.
everyone talks,
Sure.
speaks.
I'll look for it while you're.
All right, that would be great. That's up to the president to allow an answer for that. And lastly, the October 25 letter last year from Mr. Littlefield to Ms. Whitford. The 10.9 positions in there for $1,341,000. I know Ms. Whitford and the school committee were worried about losing those people, and her last comment was if students are to continue to receive these services, the school department will have to find an alternative funding source instead of ESSER to the general operating budget. So where are these folks right now, these 10.9?
Yes, we identified 10.9 full-time equivalents that were being funded with ESSER funds in 23-24. There will be no ESSER funds to support those positions. So we're in the process now of looking at our staffing to make decisions. We've not made any hard decisions just yet as to what positions will or will not be eliminated, but it's safe to say that the majority of those, since there is no funding for them, that the majority are going to go away. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if some of the 16.9 folks you let go.
We haven't let anybody go yet.
Oh, no, I know, you have to do go through the routine here, but, all right, so we've answered my main question. All right, Mr.
Does he have the question for?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Do you have that answer for Jim? Almost?
All right.
Okay.
All right, anyone else wish to speak? Dorold, come on up.
Good evening. Just curious, Mr. Littlefield, how on Wednesday night you could present your budget for next year if you don't know what you're doing with your people. Doesn't make any sense to me. But, a procedural thing here. So I went on the school district and the town council websites today trying to figure out who was running this meeting, and I pulled up all the agendas and they all said the same thing. So then I went to your calendar, and tonight does not have a blue square. So if it doesn't have a blue square, it wouldn't be you guys in charge. It would be the school district.
Dorold, this
Right?
is how we always do it.
I'm just saying.
Either way, school committee questions, town council questions, go for them.
Okay. The reason you didn't adopt the budget last year until June was because of the referendum. Last thing, so the comment was made about, I think Ms. Alley brought the issue up about being careful going forward. The events that are happening in the Middle East right now, if that thing turns ugly, if those two countries really go to war, all bets are off, because a business thing I saw last night in CNN said you'd be looking at $250 a barrel for oil, and it's all over.
Thank you, Dorold. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this?
Hi, Laura Urban. I had a question. Could I get some clarity on what our surplus is? maybe I should say the reason I asked is I'm confused about, there was a 16 million-ish number presented in tonight's materials, and then in the 24-25 budget statement on our website, the budget book, there's page 82 and 83 have a comprehensive summary that cites an ending fund balance of $43 million. So I don't understand these things. I know it's super complicated. It's really hard to, they're long documents, there's lots of tables. I get it, that. But maybe I interrupted your thinking when I asked, what's our surplus? And you seem to have an answer ready.
So there are a few different, we have, what's commonly referred to when talking about the surplus is the unassigned fund balance. So that is not designated for anything. That is basically the rainy day fund of the town. And that's what's commonly referred to, and that's what's commonly discussed.
Whoa, hold up. Brian, that's not what I refer to when I say surplus.
Oh,
Surplus means revenue in excess of expenses.
okay.
Hence the conversation about the 2.4 million in projected surplus, allowing us to tap into extra general fund monies to reduce the tax rate. But go ahead.
Okay. So there is an overall fund balance of the town that is large, that is assigned for other funds. So there, one being, it's been discussed a few times in this chambers, where the trustees of South Kingston Schools has a large large fund balance, not unassigned, but a large fund balance. There are a lot of funds, the school department has a fund balance. Many of the side funds like wastewater, water, those all have fund balances that are assigned to those funds, and those fund balances are designated to those operations. So there are a lot of amounts that make up the overall fund balance. Generally speaking, when in these chambers and talking about what could be drawn down for use in the budget, that's referred to as the unassigned fund balance, and that's the 15.
Yeah. So, but the ending fund balance on page 83 says $43 million for fiscal '23. What is that? Is that the sum of all these other funds that you're referring to? It's the only place I saw this number. That's why I'm asking, because
Okay.
I tried to backtrack it through the hundreds of pages of this document, and I couldn't do it with just my eyeballs. So anyway, I don't mean to belabor this point,
No,
but
I can certainly, I can get your contact info after the meeting. I can get back to you on
Yeah,
that.
that would
I'm using my computer on the screen right now, so I can't really look behind the scenes, but I can certainly get that number.
sure. And are there best practices in how we use any surpluses that other towns use? I mean, this notion that we're going to take a surplus and then reduce the tax rate, it seems like we should take the surplus and do something productive with it here if we have one. But what do other towns do with surpluses?
So the town has a policy, fund balance policy, where they should have 10 to 17%
Right.
of their operating budget in their unassigned fund balance. And best practice would be using the fund balance for non-reoccurring operating expenses, like capital items that are not reoccurring. And that's generally, for fiscal year '25, the pay-go amount for capital goods is just over 2.1 million. And the use of fund balance next year is being proposed at 1,793,000. So effectively, those funds are all being used for capital expenses.
Yeah, and I asked too because, I mean, on our town website cites $155 million in deferred maintenance on all the schools. I just want folks listening to have that in perspective in these conversations. I think that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Okay, well, this public hearing is going to stay open. We have another one on Wednesday. So if you're here and want to come back, go ahead.
So all this talk about the municipal undesignated fund, I was just wondering what the school department fund balance is, and did you do like a similar analysis to what Brian did, just for parity and clarity?
Sure, to clarify, are you talking about fiscal '24? A year-end projection for '24?
Yep.
Yes, yes. So as of right now, we're actually going to have a budget subcommittee meeting tomorrow. This is a very, very rough estimate with, 2.5 months left in the fiscal year. We're looking at roughly $1 million is probably a good benchmark. We have some outstanding liabilities. We got some, obviously, a number of payrolls. We have some.
Yep, so it's you're projecting $1 million surplus.
It's like a 50% confidence level at this point,
Okay.
essentially. Yeah.
And Brian, do you have a 50% confidence level in your fund balance, or do you have a higher one? Surplus, fund balance surplus.
I'll go north of 50, but not much. There's a lot of time left.
Okay.
So what will that put that unassigned balance to?
That gets us to about $3 million.
Okay.
If all things fall in place.
And what is your best practice range again?
Between 1% and 2%.
And what does that connect to in dollars?
I'll get it for you right now.
Carol knows. I could ask Carol better. I think she knows. 1.2? So the minimum or the 2% is a $1.2 million?
So it's 1% is 626,000. 2% is 1.2 million.
There you go. So you potentially have $1.8 million right now that you could allocate in some way to be helpful and useful to something.
Sure. That's all up to the school committee. Absolutely.
Okay.
And does that account for the amounts that you intend to spend towards CIP?
Yeah.
So our intention next year is to use about 1.1 million towards CIP, so it would cover that completely,
So the 3 million less the 1.1 gets you 1.9?
essentially.
Okay. That's right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, to clarify then, you'll be using your undesignated balance of, part of that, to go towards capital improvement projects, CIPs, in the lower schools, some of the maintenance projects
correct.
that need to be done.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so these are some of the projects that we hear, that we have unmet needs at the lower schools. So that's what we're going to use this money for.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say, while our policy is 1.2%, best practices is actually 2 to 3%. So we are under that. And then I know Melissa had a question.
Similar, I'm just curious if you can answer the same question for the town. What is the best practice in terms of fund balance, and what available funds would there be to consider as well?
So the town has a fund balance policy of 10 to 17%. GFOA recommends 2 months, which would come out to 16, I don't have it in front of me, but it was like 16.84%, I believe, is recommended. And we're currently with the 2023 audit at 17.52%, obviously, the unaudited results, obviously, for fiscal year 24. Mm-hmm.
And Ryan, if there happens to be a surplus in the budget relating to the school department, that would increase the undesignated fund balance further.
Correct.
And there is a possibility at this point, what are we saying? Okay, we're now in
absolutely,
April,
yeah,
the year
yeah.
end's going to end June?
I'm confident we'll have a surplus. I don't know what the exact number will be.
Okay.
Yep. So, I mean, just to clarify, so today was the deadline for getting in purchase requisitions, right? So we've essentially frozen discretionary spending. So now we have vacation and sick payoffs. Those are some big expenses coming down the line. We got some open purchase orders as well. So essentially, I'll be able to dial it in. It's the revenue side that might be a little bit more difficult to project. I mean, I know what the state aid will be, essentially. I know what the town tax transfer will be. Our Medicaid reimbursements are kind of up in the air for the most part. So that's where the confidence level of 50% comes in.
Okay. So we're looking at, after accounting for everything that we've discussed, potentially undesignated fund balance of over 2 million?
Correct.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
There's a list of repairs, obviously, that are needed. Do you have any identified that you could take care of, or that you should take care of?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We have our capital improvement plan, and we can move projects, sooner
What
as
would be
needed.
the top one?
What would be the top one? Oh, man, I'd have to look at our HVAC, definitely. But we've already have that budget for this year, and we're going to use the ESSER funds to do HVAC units.
Do you have much of the ESSER funds left?
Do we have much? Is that what you said? Yes.
Well, I should say, is it all spoken for? Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
For the most part, yeah. For the most part.
Are you going to
Yes.
use it all so we don't lose it?
That is the goal, absolutely.
You think we will?
Yes.
Okay.
And Ryan, to clarify, we have until September, correct?
September 30th, correct. And the funds just need to be committed, not spent. So that means purchase orders or contracts.
All right. Kate, you got anything? Anyone else?
On this topic?
Yes. Okay. Well, public hearing is going to continue on Wednesday. So if you're here and you haven't spoken, maybe something comes to mind. What's going on?
I have an answer for Mr. O'Neill.
Go ahead.
So total spent from ESSER on capital through March 31st is $160,182. We have an additional $95,000 encumbrance, so that brings $255,000 essentially. And then we have another $594,000 in projects earmarked.
All right, Jim?
So that's a total of about $850,000.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. So this public hearing will continue on Wednesday. So we look forward to seeing you guys all there then, and anyone else who hasn't spoken yet who wishes to. We're going to now move to the next item on the agenda here. Discussion and potential action relative to mailing notification of the school bond referendum special election to registered voters in town. Jim Maney, I'm going to go to you for an intro here.
Thank you, Council President, again. So last week at a town, a resident stood up and requested that the town council, that a mailer sent out, that the town send a mailer out regarding the facts of the school bond, what the total amount would be, the debt service, and so forth and so on. Susan Flynn did some research this past week. A flyer or a postcard is not required by law, but this would be something extra that the town could do if they wanted to. So there are 22,000 registered voters in the town. There are approximately 11,500 households that comprise all these registered voters. So if the town council decides to send out a flyer or a postcard, the staff here, the clerk's office, did a lot of work just trying to figure out what the cost would be, what the time frame would be, and of course the council would have to decide what they would like on this postcard or flyer. So the two options are a postcard, which the cost would be with postage approximately $1 each. So the decision would be, if you had a postcard, do you want to send them to all the registered voters, 22,000, and that cost would be approximately $22,000. Or do you want to send it just to the households that do have multiple registered voters? That would be about $11,500, simple math. If you decide to do a flyer in an envelope, the cost goes up substantially, depending on both sides of the flyer, color, and of course, postage and the envelope. The price would be minimally $1.50 per flyer, and we can do the numbers from there, pretty easily. That if we do the 22,000 registered voters and a flyer goes to each, it's approximately $30,000. And if we do the households alone, it would be, approximately $17,000 to send it out. The big thing is, it's pretty close to early voting.
which is on the 17th. Matter of fact, there were members from the Board of Elections here today with ballots, and we're really gearing up. So the early voting starts on the 17th. There's no way we could get these out by the 17th. So one of the concerns is the early voters would not have the benefit of having a flyer or a postcard with whatever the council decides to put on it. The best case scenario would be by the end of the week to get this out. So once again, let's recap this. So the council would have to decide, one, do you want to send a notification to to the voters, 22,000 registered voters or 11,500 households? If so, what would you want to send, a postcard or a flyer? And what would you want on the postcard or the flyer? Those are the
All right.
decisions by the council.
Thank you, Jim. Just a preliminary question here. What is the easiest as far as administering and getting out faster, a postcard or a flyer?
Postcard.
Postcard? So that ensures, earlier delivery as compared to a flyer?
Well, talking to Susan, and I'm not putting words in her mouth, but we've talked about it for the past couple of days, even since last week. It's much easier to get a postcard printed with information on it. Of course, you would not be able to put the same amount of information on a postcard that you would on a flyer. And then that would be the most cost-effective way, which is probably secondary to what your thought is, but the easiest way to get it out to all the voters sooner than later.
Go ahead. Yep, go.
You go ahead.
Okay. I like the idea of a postcard because I think it would be very easy to just, put a label on it, and it takes out one step with stuffing the envelope, which I know can be a real hassle. So my thought would be to do a postcard to the households rather than to the voters, because I don't really see the need to send it to each registered voter. I'd rather just send it to the household with basic information. We're having this vote, and direct them to where they can get more information. Maybe use a QR code. That would be my thought.
Well, one last thing on the postcard. What's good about a postcard, in the front of it, it has the address, the Board of Canvassers, and it has 180 High Street, Wakefield, which is Town Hall. But also has the U.S. Representative District on it, the State Senate District on it. It has everything you need, but more importantly, it has the polling location and the polling address that the individual card's going to go to.
Why would we need to have the federal legislators? We don't need to have that.
I think that's standard on this card that I have. This is one from the last election, but once again, it's just going to be really the precinct, the polling location, the polling address, and this will be to the individual voter.
So it'll say where the voter is supposed to vote of the 4 locations. Is that correct?
Yes.
That'd be good.
So I also like the idea of a postcard. I think we do need to do a notice out to the community, and I think it makes sense to do one per household, voter at, eliminate the duplicates, do the smallest mailing per household, letting the people know that there's a special election, a bond referendum, putting the exact language. I don't want to repeat any chaos from any other past special election bond referendum. So just saying, there's a special election for a bond referendum on May 7th, early voting begins, blah, blah, blah. And the question is to approve or reject the $150 million bond, and then include the website. The town website is the most objective, even information about it. We want people to do the research. They can go to the website. I don't know, Patty, the QR makes me a little nervous based on last week, because we all struggled, number of people to struggle on the presentation at the school building committee meeting. So I like that idea, but it does require a certain level of tech savvy. So just guiding them to the website makes sense. And then
I'm satisfied with that. I think that people can, if they can't do it themselves, can ask somebody to help them with it if they can't get to the website themselves.
Right, well, the QR code, I think, is
The
like...
QR code is kind
advanced.
of more complicated
Yeah.
at times.
So, but I think the town website does link you to all the other information.
Yeah, it's objective and,
Yep,
right, I agree.
right.
Early voting probably isn't going to make a difference. If they're coming this early, they already know which way they're going to go, so it's kind of a moot point. I think the school building committee has a certain amount of verbiage and maybe pictures that they'd like to put on there. And I think to tell people about the financial part of it is equally as important as showing what the school building committee wants to show. Can you take paper, not you obviously, but the printer and just tri-fold it and tape it or staple it or whatever for a lesser price than the $1.50?
So you're talking about a flyer, correct?
Yep.
I don't know that answer. I mean, I don't know if we have the staff bandwidth to do that, to be quite honest with you. So this is but Susan, you've been doing this for 30 years. Do you have something you want to add on that? I mean,
This is a job that has to go to the state's printer.
Absolutely.
I don't think that they're going to be able to print the information that we want on the outside of the envelopes, or not on an envelope the way you're talking, just to take a flyer and fold it. I don't think they would be able to do the print job for the mailing address and polling place information in that manner.
If you use just a card and it has people go to the town site, doesn't the town just show the bond info and not the rest of the financial impact?
So we could have both. We were waiting to put up slides from last week because we're making some corrections on them. We haven't put up the slides yet, but once again, this is a decision I'd like the council to make. Tell us specifically what you want on these cards or letters, what you'd like what you would like it to link to, and then we'll get it done. But at this point, so late in the game, I would just recommend having the printer do it with all the information they already have on their database.
Yeah, I would agree, have a printer do it. I don't have a problem with that.
Go ahead. If we're going to do this, I agree with the idea of households as opposed to every single individual voter. But when there are statewide bond issues, the Secretary of State's office does issue a booklet to each voter, and it tends to be multiple pages. A postcard is not going to give the context of what this vote is for. It's not going to explain the $150 million, why the school building committee reached this point, and there's been information out there that this isn't a great idea and it should just be a renovation of the existing building, except the people who spent 3 years on this checked that out, got an answer from RIDE, that's not going to do it. I think that ought to be part of it too, is why they are not opting for renovation. And you can't do all of that on a postcard. If there's official information from the school building committee as to how we got to this point, and I know I've looked at the website, there certainly are questions, but there's also a lot of voters in this town that either aren't going to or cannot access a QR code in the website. Put them on there, put them in a flyer if you want. The more information you can give to the voters, the better. But you can't assume that people are just going to be able to go to a website and ferret it out for themselves.
So Susan just gave me two documents that we could link. That would be, this is what the ad's going to be Friday, which has much of the information about the bond, and this is the insert with all the information, including pictures. So I'll give it to the council to look at, but this could be linked to that card that we send out.
Go ahead.
We can also, trying to meet the need that was just spoken about, is you can pick up a flyer at the local library, at the senior center, and we can tell them where to go. If they can't go to a website, we can say, Town Hall has a flyer, there's a flyer at the library, right? We can do all of that, right? Because Susan said that's where they're going to be. I do think we need the slides up about the financial implications. I thought we resolved that last
Yeah, I
week.
thought we already authorized that.
So,
We did, but there were a couple of corrections that, as of Friday, that we were looking at, adding a different column or making it more clear cut. But,
adding a different column?
Whoa,
well,
Jim,
well,
I
no,
don't
no,
think-
no, let me clarify, just making it more clear on what is up there, all right? But-
We're all on.
Jim, I would be hesitant for you guys to put on the website anything that is not what we authorized. So if you're putting additional information that we have not vetted and authorized to be on the site, I'm
Well,
wary of that.
Yeah, no, well, I wouldn't put it up without showing
So-
you first, but,
so-
so it's not up yet, it'll be
Right.
up. That's the
Right.
bottom line.
The slides we talked about, Rory, on Monday, we were going to put up 2 slides
That's right.
and a footnote.
Yes.
We were going to add the footnote.
That's correct.
And that's where we all landed.
Yes.
We are not going to put up the 3rd slide because you didn't feel comfortable showing any anticipated increase from the school department, right? You
Yes,
didn't want-
because
you
I
di-
felt
you
that
didn't want
assumption was unreasonable.
Okay. So we landed on 2 and a footnote that says these increases do not include any anticipated potential whatever from the school department, right?
Yes, and I agree those should be up there. Other
Okay.
than a, precising of the actual numbers, which it sounded like you may be still working on, I would not like to see any addition of columns or rows
So-
that
No,
are not presented to us.
you're clear about that.
I
I'm not
think-
adding anything without checking with the council. Well, they'll be up tomorrow.
I know.
This
So
is
I
a work
think
in progress.
To be fair, Rory, at the school building committee meeting on Thursday, you weren't there, there was feedback from somebody who said the flyer needed to shift the columns, right? They wanted, so the I didn't travel and drop or move, so they wanted, maybe that's what Jim's talking about? That was the only edit that I heard in that flyer.
The bottom line is, it's not up yet, it'll be up tomorrow.
Okay.
Brian also had a slide at the April 11 presentation that was a one-sheet graphic on all of the financial information. I thought that summarized it pretty well.
That flyer, the flyer? The flyer?
No, slide. One of the slides that Brian,
So you can see the confusion exactly what's going on. So what we're trying to figure out, everyone wants something up. School building committee, council,
Yeah.
obviously. We're trying to figure all that out and put it up so that we're not putting something out that shouldn't be up. But we worked on it today, it'll be up tomorrow.
So, is it there? I mean, I see them there. Those are the original ones from last Monday.
You say it's going to be up tomorrow. Can you pull it up now?
They're not finished.
Can we pull it up now?
Yeah.
What is Mike asking about? I don't remember the slide.
there was a slide that Brian included in his presentation on April 11 on the financial costs, and it was a one-page thing that laid out $150 million bond, so much in state aid, and what the average cost per taxpayer is going to be. It was up on the screen.
I don't.
So
I
to
don't
clarify,
remember
the 2 slides that we spoke about with the footnote will be up tomorrow.
Okay.
The 3rd slide's not going up.
That's fine. So, can we go back to the postcard or the notice? Where do we agree? We're doing a postcard?
I think a postcard's fine.
A flyer is great, Greg, but I also feel like there's gonna be a notice, some people will have voted, but hopefully in a multi-person household, the postcard reminds someone else to go to vote. Or it teaches the person who had no idea to go look for information. So, it's not a concern to me when it goes out, as long as it goes out this week. I think it should just be a very objective notice about what the facts are, what the question is, approve or reject, the $150 million bond. We just need this to be really squeaky clean, right? That's it. It just put the information out there. People can learn what they need to learn or not pay attention and vote however they want. But we're just going to tell them there's a special election on May 7th and early voting, and here's where you vote. Simple.
Right. I mean, that I think we should do that. We've been asked to do that. I think it makes perfect sense, but it just needs to be very objective, and we need to provide people with the opportunity to know where to find the information that they need to make their decision and not try to,
Let me see. Go back.
Luke, am I correct saying they're on the website today? On the school building committee website. Yeah, but we're talking about the town website.
The graphic with the circles at the top. See that one?
Yep.
That.
So the link on the postcard would be to this site, correct?
No, the link on the website should go to the town website. The link should go to the town.
Okay,
So they're
and
on the school
town
building
website-
committee website. I think what you're talking about, Council President, is you want it on the website, our website, the town website.
I'm talking about the website included on a potential postcard. What will it be? Will it be that website?
Well, tell us where you want it.
No, it'd be on the town.
Well, show us what the town website is then.
That's
A
the
link?
school building
That's
committee.
the school building committee.
That's the school building committee.
Okay, so if we're talking about the postcard, including the town website, show me what's going to come up when they click on the link on the postcard you're talking about.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Does the council want it on our website or the school building committee website?
I wanted the town website.
Right.
The town, this is
Okay.
a town, we're sending the postcard out. It's from the town.
So then the people will need to go to the town website and then click over to the SK project.
Or we could go to both.
I think both would probably be more, because the town website is, I mean,
You're
not to
it's
say
gonna-
that it's not great.
It's not as easy
but
to find this straight from the town website.
I find this very easy to navigate. Although the town website looks way better now, but it's easier.
I'd like to hear from the chair of the school building committee who's been working on this.
So our problem is our agendas don't match. And this is not a school committee rule, it's a Rhode Island general law, that unless it is on a school committee agenda, we can't talk about it. I am happy to excuse myself from the school committee and become a school building committee member for the evening, and then our agenda is over. If I can do that. I don't know if I can do that, but I'm happy to try. We don't have any lawyers we have lawyers in the building, but they're not school building committee lawyers. But I think our part of the agenda is over, so if the school committee can be adjourned from conversation, I'm happy to go and speak at the other microphone.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
No, thank you, Mr. President. I'm just pointing out that if you go to the town website and you click on School Bond Project, it takes you directly to the School Building Committee website with all of this information. So it,
All right.
So we can do that.
So it is easy to navigate.
the link is already, yes, the link is
Show us.
already there. I'm looking
Show
at,
us how to do it. You got
I'm
the
looking
screen
at
up.
School Bond Project, and it takes you right to that website there.
May I also suggest that the school building committee is a town committee? Everything that we have put on the school building committee website has been approved by the town manager, the deputy town manager, the chief financial officer of the town, who all sit on the school building committee. So I'm not really sure what the problem is. That said, to Bob's point, one points to the other, as we can see right here. Big notice, it's moved to skschoolproject.com. So that's where all the information has been housed. I'm not quite sure why we would want to alter anything at this point, but I don't know what's
We're
going on.
not altering anything.
Okay.
So,
We're talking about which website to use, which is
Okay.
easiest to access.
Well, and that's kind
Show
of
us.
the point. He just showed you.
Show us again.
Whoever's
Show us
running
again.
the computer. It said that is your town website. And you go to the school building committee page on your town website. And it says right there, notice, the South King Sound School Building Committee website has moved to https://skschoolproject.com.
So that is definitely the school project website, but that's not the information about the voting. That's not where the bond is, that's not where to vote, that's learn about the project. We're trying to tell people about the election, the special election. So we can put both.
I was going to say you want people to know about the election, but you want them also informed on what they're voting, correct?
Yeah, but we need to tell them.
So you need both.
But they need to know where what the language is.
Correct.
So it's fine. We could put both, because we could decide that. And we could also figure out where Brian's slides are, because someone just told me they can't find them. So the slides need to be available, the project needs to be available, the voter information needs to be available, and the question needs to be available.
All are located on the school building committee website at skschoolproject.com.
All right. Okay, here's
Thank you
the
very
problem.
much. But
Here's
we're
the
not
problem.
only going to, we don't only need to do the school website. We need to show the voter information. This is more than the project. It's where to vote, how to vote, and I get it. But many things are buried in that website, and I was told when the information was inaccurate that Chris worked for the school building committee. So that's what I was told. I'm like, well, that's not accurate stuff you have there. And he said, I take my direction from them. So
And it's been updated, and it's all located there. And I don't know why we're having an argument, because we're all saying the same thing. Because we all want as much information out there as possible, so people know there's an election and are informed on what they're voting on.
Thank you.
Yes, all right. Let's get back to the focus here.
Yeah.
So, just talking about the website here.
Thank you.
If you use the town website, you have to go to the government tab, you have to go down to school building committee, and then you go from there. And it leads you to the SK School Project website. Why don't we just include it straight to the SK School Project website? If you didn't show me how to get there, I'm sure there's many others, they don't know to go to government, and then school building committee, and then get there. Just give them the link straight to it. That's how I see it.
I'd also like them to see the slides, because when you go there, you're not seeing the finances.
The slides aren't here?
No.
Yeah, they are.
Click on by the numbers so we can see what it says. All right, it's all there.
Yeah.
So it's got to go straight to this website, not the town website. That's how I see it. All right.
And why don't you want the third chart?
We already discussed this in detail, Greg. You were
Yeah,
at
and
the
I
meeting.
disagreed then.
Yeah, you disagreed then.
you
I disagreed with you. And we talked this out.
Can you refresh my memory of why we don't want it?
Yeah. Because you used an unreasonable assumption in that slide that I don't believe is necessary to put up there. I don't believe there's a basis underlying why it should be up there. And I do not feel comfortable presenting it from the town.
Those are
as
Brian's numbers, not mine.
Those are your numbers.
No, it's not.
Greg,
You asked for that
I
information to be up there.
I expanded on those, but that's not the third chart that Brian came up with. Those are Brian's, and he said those were conservative numbers.
You asked for that information to be presented. He presented it to us. We had a meeting, deliberated over it. A majority of us decided we weren't comfortable presenting that. That's where we are.
Okay.
That's why it's not there.
Greg, I hear what you're saying, and I think you present, it's very reasonable to expect that the school committee is not going to be level funded for 20 more years. We would all, if that were true, we should all go buy the Powerball, because we would know. Because we know that there is going to be an ask. This bond shows a level funding for the next 5 years for the school department. We don't even know if that is expected. Reasonable people would say it couldn't be true.
Can we get back to the flyer? There are a lot of voters in town that are not going to ferret out the information on the website. If we're going to do this, it shouldn't be a postcard, it should be a flyer. And it should include context from the town's school building committee on why we're proposing this.
All right, so you're leaning toward a flyer?
If we're gonna do it, yes.
I mean, I'm leaning toward a postcard based on a lot of what we discussed here, which includes the link to the website with all the information we feel comfortable presenting. That seems the most efficient way, the best way to administer getting this out, and allows us to get notification of the special election, where they need to vote, the date, early voting is happening, and here's the link to get all the information you wish. That's how I see it. Go ahead.
I agree with you, Rory. I like the efficiency of it. I really don't think that we have a lot of time to belabor it. I think we just need to, if we're going to do it, let people know. And I think that a postcard is what we need to do.
I prefer a flyer with some information on it, and you can still direct them to the town site.
All right, what are we thinking here? Seems like majority here is feeling toward postcard, some are feeling flyer. Should we talk this through further?
I could go either way. My interest is providing the information to the community. That's it. People have to make a decision on this. So there was a flyer proposed last week. Did we not see one at the school building committee? I feel like I was in an alternate universe because I saw a flyer.
Well, there was a flyer, correct?
There was something.
Can you bring the flyer up on here?
Was there not a flyer?
Are you talking about the flyer that looks like the board that's out here?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a flyer.
The 3-8 one.
I feel like it was somewhere else.
I'm trying to remember where it's located.
So,
Is it on our website?
Yeah, it's one of the first two
That's the flyer.
slides right there. That one and the next
and
one.
then there's the other side, right?
There can be something on the other side, I'm assuming.
I thought there was.
So there are three, right? There's this one, there's the one you just showed, and then the other one is the slides. It's not a flyer, it's just the slides.
So this is the flyer right here? And this obviously includes the link.
So can the town be anything other than in the middle objective?
They shouldn't be.
That's why a postcard to me is the most objective
Yeah.
neutral. I mean, typically a mailer is like an advocacy position. You're
Right.
advocating
Right.
for one side or the other.
Right.
So I'm a little weary of it from the beginning here, but if we're gonna do it, we gotta be as neutral as possible. That's why I feel comfortable with a postcard. Here's the link. You want more information, go there. So it's not like we're saying, here's the information we
Exactly.
wanna present.
What is that? What does the white part, just the white part say? Can you keep it zooming in, please? I don't know why I'm looking over here. It just doesn't have the language.
Which I think the language is important, I just think when you start getting into like a full color ad with big pictures, it makes a compelling argument. So I would be more in favor of a just basic postcard.
Make it black and white.
I think that really, that would be the most, or whatever we do, I think it needs to just be very straightforward.
All right, I'm still leaning toward postcard here. Where's everyone else at?
Postcard.
Flyer.
There's an old saying, concede early that what you've already lost. I'll go with flyer, postcard, sorry.
You started out with postcard. You had very good reasoning. I thought it made a lot of sense. Seems to be the most neutral. You get anything sort of flyer-ish, you're either presenting one way or the other. I don't feel the best about it. That's just my take. give them basic information, where you need to vote, here's the bond question. If you need more information regarding this, here's the site. The most neutral we can get. It's the most comfortable I feel.
I definitely see the support for the flyer because it makes sense, but I feel like in the end, it becomes a murky subject, and I'd prefer to just have a notice to the community. It's, everyone either has to do their due diligence at some part and take responsibility and educate themselves. We are gonna put out all the information that we can. I would like both the simple link to the town election information and to the financial impact from Brian linked. One link like that and one link to the PR created marketing piece, because you could look at both. You need to look at both. You don't want to hunt through and click. You want to just go directly to the places. So let's just try to provide both links, or as many links to the simplest information, and go with that. And I think that people are now realizing that we're going to have an election, a special election, and a bond referendum on May 7th. We've probably said it 20 times tonight.
Okay. All right.
Postcard.
Postcard.
Sorry, Greg.
All right, let's take a vote on this. Do I hear a motion here?
Motion to have the town clerk create a postcard indicating the special election bond referendum on May 7th with factual information regarding polling places, early voting, links to the town website, the school project website, financial impact, project design, whatever.
As discussed.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Does that cover everything we've sort of said here?
Yes, Susan the scribe has everything written
All
down.
right. And the vote is to,
So we'll see you Wednesday, correct? So you can, do you think it's reasonable that you'd have something to show us and then get it? Or do you already want to have it sent to the printers by Wednesday?
Well, we have a rough draft of
Oh.
what we could put on the back of it already, but
In all your free time? Thank you.
and that vote was to send it to the households.
Voter at, eliminate all the duplicates, Susan.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
All right, that passes 4-1. All right, cool. It's going to bring us to the end of the meeting here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is over.